has a symbiotic relationship, a mutuality of influence with the dances being made today. 9. There is an inherent tension between dance and writing. Sometimes it is a gap, too much unsaid or unknown between them. At other times it is friction. They are too close to each other, competing for the same space, for the same meaning. Dance and writing are distinct languages unto themselves and also as translations of each other. Dance comes from and speaks to a different part of the brain, personality, and community. Maybe this is true of all art, but I think that dance's relationship to the body and the social communal aspect of witnessing it are part of its essential difference and conflict with writing. All this to say that it's not just capitalism or journalism or bad writing or the internet that results in so few dance books and writers. Dance's continuation is not at all dependent on writing, on reviewers or historians, on academics or grant writers.
Thank you, Keith Hennessy. So, with that as our preamble, as I mentioned, we have quite a wide range of dance writers assembled here, as I think you can tell from what they have told you about themselves and their thoughts about dance writing. What we want to do now is have a few questions that we kind of mull over amongst the bunch of us here before we broaden it out to include all of you. So one thing, there are just so many things that have been kind of pulled into the middle of the room and are swirling around in front of us, and I think that's great. One of the big questions that I would like to just spend a little more time with is, as we think about this notion of bridge or translator that all of you have brought up in your own ways, and we ram that against the idea of change in the future, could you maybe talk a little bit about how you could see this notion of bridge going into the future? What are some of our strategies for helping this idea of bridge go forward, if this is indeed a way that seems rich and right to you for describing some part of what dance writing is for you?
I have no idea. What I do in my writing, I tailor it very much to the readers. The Big Guardian readers are very much different from the readers at the San Jose Mercury News. What I write on the Dance View Times website is also very different from Dance Magazine. You know, I write for all of these, and I'm very much aware of what the reader is. And this whole issue about the internet, I write for the internet, but basically, if I had my choice, I would write for print publications, because the internet reaches a very fractured audience, and that's the last thing in the world that I'm basically interested. I don't read a lot of blogs, so I don't exactly know what is out there. Does that help?
Yeah, actually it does.
Well, I don't think in terms so much of the dance writing, and maybe it's my own. At this point, I feel like I write for myself. When I write for the Contra Costa Times, it's like a placeholder, and I don't take it seriously. I mean, I do the best I can given the venue, but it's hard to take seriously. It's not the kind of writing that I'd like to do. So what concerns me is how to make dance visible, and I have a lot of unrealistic fantasies, some that would probably cause accidents, like wonderful billboards that show dance on them at the side of the freeway and advertise what's going to happen, putting inside every library and museum video terminals that show the local dance. So my concerns really are more about with the decline of this public forum, the sort of public plaza that print journalism has been for us for generations now. What do we do to substitute for that? And I think the question of what is going to shake out for criticism is really secondary to how does the communication, basically the PR about the events, come about. If the internet is so fragmentary, I think people have a hard time finding the same information. So it means that community itself becomes challenged, and community. I mean, that's a complex issue, and there are layers of community, and certainly this community is plugged in together in a way that Rachel's community at the Chronicle is not plugged in with you. So for me, the really pressing issue is maintaining publicity and getting the word out. And I think some guerrilla tactics. I lived in Rome years and years ago when arts events weren't publicized in the newspaper. And as with death notices that would be plastered, glued to walls all over the place, people would put performance notices up. I think that kind of thing needs to be generated here, that people need to think really creatively about how to get the message out. And I do believe that new forums will arise through the internet for arts writing. I think it's very hard right now to envision what they'll be.
It seems like we're partly on the bridge and partly on the internet. So I don't use the metaphor of the bridge very much. I think I'm kind of... A long time ago, I realized that everybody thinks that they're the bridge between a couple of things. And that's one of the ways that we define ourselves. Like we see ourselves as people who are, oh, I'm the person who does this. I'm between, you know. So yeah, I'm critical about the idea, as I said, about some idea about a normal or neutral reader. I don't think we come from the same small town, so I don't think that that works anymore. I don't think it's worked for like several hundred years. So that's one piece. And maybe if you're going to respond to that, then maybe you're going to go on bridge.
No, I don't think that's actually the kind of reader that I'm trying to write for. And we had the benefit of a dinner conversation a couple weeks ago too, and you said something that I thought was useful there, which like this idea of like writing for, you know, someone who's never seen a dance before, right. And like, well, what would Joe Blow think if they just walked into the theater and saw it? I agree with you that that's not a useful conception of how to write to a general reader.
Well, especially when there's more than one.
That's not what I'm trying to do.
No, I don't think that's you, but I think that there's more than one Joe is the problem. Mm-hmm. Like there's a Joe and a Jane and a Mustafa and a Jose and a Maria. Do you know what I mean? That's the actual problem. That there isn't one Joe who's never seen work before. There's billions of people who've never seen work before, and they wouldn't respond to the same paragraph. So the idea that there's an open kind of writing, I'm critical of. The thing about the internet for me is that more people are on the internet for more hours than ever before. Well, they're reading. I mean, there's of course YouTube and they're watching, but they're also reading. They're looking at words. So there's all kinds of opportunities, and I think there's all kind of reading. I think that the idea that it would just be a dance space, as Rita was saying, and then the only people that would go there would be dance writers, or you would only go when it's about you or your friends or something, and it becomes this incredibly specialized audience, is not really any kind of view of perfection. In terms of democracy, some people think that for democracy what you need is for everyone to be educated and informed. Other people expand that and say that for democracy what you need is good conversation. So on the internet, sometimes what we have is we have free flow of information, but no actual debate and conversation. So that's not democracy. And sometimes on the internet, what we have is debate and conversation, but it's so ignorant and ill-informed that that's not democracy either. So the best of the internet is when we've got sort of free-flowing information and a quality of information with a quality of debate. And it happens, but it happens sometimes. It's almost the exception. But there's so much volume of activity on the internet that it's actually happening all the time. I mean, Facebook in some ways has to be one of the stupidest sucks of human energy to ever invent. And yet every now and then something really amazing happens on it that doesn't happen anywhere else. And the next thing you know, it's like you're pulled into, you know, definitely the best conversation I ever participated in on the whole idea of gay marriage happened on Facebook. Stupid as it is, that's where it happened. There have been some amazing